Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar, Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha. Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Hariva, Nitai Gaur Hariva, Nitai Gaur Granthraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta-vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Hari. By the mercy of all assembled Vaishnavas and those who are able and willing to give blessings, I ask everyone, bless me so I can give some insights which are useful for yourself, for myself, and online as well. So today we are reading from chapter 6 and verses 42. Chapter name is Dhyan Yoga. Dhyan. Basically it's a meditation or intelligence. Shall we repeat each word or just verse or?
Repeat.
Okay. Athava yoginameva.
Athava yoginameva.
Athava yoginameva.
Athava yoginameva.
Kule bhavati dhimata.
Kule bhavati dhimata.
Kule bhavati dhimata.
Kule bhavati dhimata.
Etadhi durlabhataram.
etadhi durlabhataram
etadhi durblabhataram
etadhi durlabhataram
loke janmaya didrisham
loke janma jatidrisam
loke janmaya didrisham
loke janma jatidrisam
athava yoginam eva
athava yoginam eva
kule bhavati dhimatam
bhavati dhimatam
etadhi durlabhataram
etadhi durlabhataram
loke janmaya didrisham
loke janma jatidrisam athava yoginam eva
adaya yoginam eva
kule bhavati dhimatam
kule bhavati dhimatam
etadhi durlabhataram
etadhi durlabhataram
loke janma jatidrisam
loke janmaya didrisham
अथवा योगिनामेव
अथवा योगिनामेव
कुले भवति धीमताम्
kule bhavati dhimatam
एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम्
etadhi durlabhataram
लोके जन्म यदि दिस्रम्
लोके जन्म जदिदृशम्
अथवा योगिनामेव
अथवा योगिनामेव
कुले भवति धीमताम्
कुले भवति धीमताम्
एतादि दुर्लभातरम्
एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम्
लोके जन्म ईदृशाम्
loke janmaya didrisham Mataji?
अथवा योगिनामेव
Atha yoginameva
कुले भवति धीमताम्
kule bhavati dhimatam
एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम्
एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम्
लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्
लोके जन्म जदिदृशम्
Athava or yoginam of learned transcendentalists. Eva certainly. Kule in the family. Bhavati takes birth. Dhimatam of those who are endowed with a great wisdom.
of those who are endowed with great wisdom.
Etat this. He certainly. Durlabhataram
Durlabhataram,
very rare.
very rare.
Loke in this world. Janma
Janma,
birth. Yat
Jat,
that which. Idrisham
Idrisam,
like this. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. Purport. Birth and in a family of a yogis or transcendentalists, those which with great wisdom is praised herein because the child born in such a family receives a spiritual impetus from very beginning of his life. It is especially the case in the Acharya or Goswami families. Such families are very learned and devoted by tradition and training, and thus they become spiritual masters. In India, there are many such Acharya families, but they have now degraded due to the insufficient education and training. By the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. This is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such a family. Fortunately, both our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families. By the grace of the Lord. And both of us, we trained in a devotional service of the Lord from very beginning of our lives. Later on, we met by the order of transcendental system. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gyanandan Shalakaya Chakshosannuritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kandarada Kantanamastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Prabhu Shrimad Gopal Krishna Goswami Namne Prabhupada Saitanya Pragasati Rishabhraj Yamkita Sadhu Bhagavad Namaha. If any of you have a doubt that everything in life can happen by the mercy of devotees, by the mercy of devotees, I'm sitting here today. And originally this whole idea came from my Guru Maharaj, who invited me to India a few years ago, and he invited me for actually preaching for youth forum in Delhi. But because I was just traveling through, to stay a longer time, I had to go back to Europe and get proper visa, and then next couple of weeks COVID started. So for a couple of years I was not able to come, and then finally 2022 I came here. My name is Atmaram. This is my first class here in Krishna Balaram Mandir. Currently I'm staying in Rukmini Vihar, which is Nada ISKCON, if you know. And by the mercy of Vishnunam Prabhu, I'm here today, who has a much bigger and wider and spiritual vision than I have. So by his blessings I can give a class there today. So in this verse we can see that Krishna is developing the important subject of one of the questions which Arjuna himself is asking, and behind that question is also some doubts and some prehistory which we'll try to uncover today. So this chapter as such, as is mentioned, is something to do with meditation and actually discovering the whole process of Ashtanga Yoga, which is not very practicable in this age, and definitely Arjuna is saying this is no good for me either, especially because the mind is so flickering and it's like a wind and I cannot stop it, and so on. So Krishna, just the end of the chapters, and this is system. Although Krishna just was speaking and having the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna without stop, without chapters, but our acharyas have divided that whole Gita into chapters according to the subject and according to the theme which is discussed. So at the end of last chapter, there's kind of transition period, and Krishna is assuring 526. He's saying that one who is endeavoring for perfection, he will achieve liberation very near future. So he's assuring, okay, if you endeavor, or anyone endeavor, you will achieve. And then of course there's a kind of already thickening the story, and he's explaining that what if you want to do, you have to concentrate your attention between the eyebrows, you know. If you are regularly coming here, probably you remember those classes, and so on. So without fear, without anger, and so on. And of course, the last verse of the previous chapter is assuring Bhaktaram Yaga Tapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutam Gatamam Shantim Richati. So you will achieve the peace, which is one of the main things in Arjuna's thing. He was afraid, he was attached, he was disturbed. So he says, if you understand me like this, you'll achieve the peace. So that's the end of chapter. And then this chapter is kind of also subdivided into 5 areas, which is first whole explanation of the yoga, and there's some very terms which we never use in our ISKCON life, like Urukshu and these subtle stages of the Dhyana yoga and Ashtanga yoga. But part of the whole system, Krishna is saying that besides the whole thing, you have to control the mind, And this is starting from verse 33, 36. There's 2 verses that Krishna is talking, Arjuna is talking, and they explain, yes, this is necessary. And next to straight away, Arjuna is asking, I think this whole system is not practical for me, This appears impractical because it's very strong, it's difficult to control mind. And Krishna says, yeah, it's possible. It is possible. By suitable practice and detachment. So these 2 things he's giving us as a thing. So, and then later on, already 37, he starts to develop the whole subject, and so on and so on. But Arjuna is saying, okay, just in case, myself or anyone who goes on this path, if he is not successful, what's going to happen? He's in doubt. Because it's kind of 2 things. You give up your material life. And then you go to the spiritual life. But you're unsuccessful there, so what's going to happen? You're going to go back? Or no, what's going on? And Krishna says, no worry, it will happen nicely. But there's a trick behind it. Since Krishna is the best guru there is, of course we know that Balaram is our representative of spiritual power and so on, but Krishna is giving us kind of 3 things, and for us it's also questions. What is the conditions? Why we are born in certain thing? So are we born in a family of transcendentalists? Are we able by the observation of our current situation understand, did we practice Krishna consciousness before? Are we born in a family of Mlechkas and Yavanas? Like for me, definitely I'm born in a family of dog eaters and so, not dog eaters, sorry, cow eaters at least, yeah. Almost close. And is it possible to change? Is it possible to change next life? And of course, the third would be question: what are the great examples? And we are lucky today. There is a disappearance of Bhakti Saraswati. Of course, when the whole discussion of next birth, the first thing in a whole thing has to be understood: we are not this body. And Prabhupada, I don't know how many times he quoted, I'm not this body, you are not this body, understand. And I have a short example of my life, which kind of was out-of-body experience. In my student age, probably I was 21, 22 years old, and I was studying, and there was Christmas party, around this time, probably December 2023. And in our central stage of the city, there was big Christmas party. And our country is much, much colder here. There's snow, There's snow, -10, -15. It's normal. And of course, when you have a party, you dance, you move, you sweat and so on. And we was very happy, Big crowd, thousands of people, fireworks and everything, music, as the students do. So we kind of a little bit carried away, and my, student town is about 30 kilometers away from the capital. I had to go by train, and we missed last train. And you go to the train station, it's empty. Last train is gone, and you are sweaty, and it's like -10, and you're like you have to wait for 3-4 hours. It was like you're sitting somewhere in the corner, and finally 5 o'clock in the morning we got the train, and we had to walk so early because there's no transportation to the dormitories and so on. And finally, like 6 o'clock, you get in your bed and but then the whole thing starts because the body kind of relaxes. It's even more difficult. So that moment, I kind of was looking at myself, miserable there, frozen and so on, from the corner of the room, and I was looking at myself, suffering that bed. It's like, who is that? You know, a familiar person. Or back. That was one of the rare things, but that happened to me. So that was a realization that, I'm something different than my body. Because the problematic was who I am, who I'm the one who is looking. So this was a thing. A little bit different thing, much, much earlier, probably at the age of 11. And I mentioned that besides meat eaters, my parents were quite, atheists. My grandmother was a little bit Christian, and a tradition, but my mother, father, they didn't believe in anything. So sometimes, somehow, this question came to my mind: what happens after death? And what do you think my mother said to me? She said, when you die, the worms will eat you. It's a nice thing to say to the 10-year-old child, you know. It was such an unusual thing. And I had to go to school, and it was too much to bear for me. I was just walking. Instead of 20 minutes, I was walking 2.5 hours, and like observing and thinking, how is it going to happen? My worm is going to eat me. But after some while, I realized one thing, you know, the anxiety was not the eating process. The anxiety was I was underground there, and I didn't know what's going on above the ground. That was biggest anxiety. But at the same time was realization that although I'm eaten, I'm still conscious. So that was my realization in 11 years old, you know. It was so unusual. So here also, Arjuna is kind of mentioned that you will go to heaven. And Krishna, this is 6 o'clock. Oh, Gayatri time. So Arjuna also was promised that if you get, victory here, you'll get the kingdom. Otherwise, you die and you'll get the heavens and so on and so on. But as early problems was there, he was attached to Bhishma, to the teacher, to other ones, relatives, in a relationship what they had it now. So how to give it up? And what you have to do to actually move to the next stage. So this is also a question. So therefore, there's a few nice examples which Krishna gives later. And he gives a very simple, the 8-6 verse, Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhavam. Whatever you remember in a stage when you quit this body, that state you will attain without doubt. So, are we currently born in situation? We were meditating on this thing? We're not sure. Maybe that was mercy also. Because, example, we currently study that unsuccessful transcendentalist, he was not thinking of getting a wealthy family. He didn't think, I'm going to be born in transcendentalist. He was meditating on the Lord. But somehow, the whole process is Arjuna says, he get overwhelmed by the worldly mentality. So, what is the process? What happens? Why it happens? So, Prabhupada gives you examples, and he gives example in a family life. If the husband is too much attached to his wife, he may get body of the woman next life. Is it possible? You have any doubts about that? It's possible. And another example he mentioned, if the criminal is meditating in the police, he'll next life will get police. And police meditating on thieves, they will become criminals. It goes around, you know. Same thing about, woman meditating in a husband, she may be also getting a man's body. It's possible. But Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is verse which is not very commonly discussed, in 11th canto, 9th chapter, text 23, there is an interesting example of the insect which is trapped by the wasp. And the verse is translated like this. O king, once a wasp forced a weaker insect to enter to his hive and kept him trapped there. So sometimes the spiders and the wasps, they catch some small insect and they just keep it for the future, like brahmachari. Take a big plate, I will eat it later. something like this. So same thing, they wrap it around or just keep it there for the children to eat or for the dessert and so on. And what happens there? In a great fear of the weak insect, constantly meditated on his captor. So he was alive, he was alive. And he was mating on the wasp who cached him there. And without giving up his body, he gradually achieved the same state of existence as a wasp. This is such an unusual verse, giving an example, not like just what you meditate, but actually there's an example. The insect was meditating on the wasp because he was a captor, he was afraid, like Kamsa was afraid of Krishna, and therefore he got liberation. Actually, he got a spiritual destination. Thus, one achieves a state of existence according to one's constant concentration. But there's one trick. In the previous verse, there's one word which is mentioned 2 times. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam. You can be meditating on something, but that's not enough. You have to have a strong emotion, bhav. You have to actually be absorbed in that person, in his activity, in his mental state, and his emotional state, and so on and so on. So therefore, our process is also similar. Like we are reading from works of our Goswamis. Just in the beginning we said, Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutala. So we are meditating. Rupa Goswami, he's our Acharya, and he understood the mind, he understood the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And he imparted that mission to the Goswamis in Vrindavan, especially Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and so on. And they wrote the books, just literally books and books about the whole process, how to get to the spiritual world and get spiritual body, not the body of the husband and wife, not the body of the wasp, but actually the spiritual body, which will happen if you have this bhav, you have your emotion, if you have a state which is similar to those who are currently serving Krishna. And therefore we have beautiful books. We have books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, full of it, Of course we can say, if we read only Bhagavad Gita, could be chance we will take birth similar like Arjuna. Do you believe that? Could be. Because if you are really in that mood, it is possible. It is possible. And those who are really absorbed, they are a little bit of a fighting spirit, I remember in my early age, when I was joining Hare Krishna movement, that was like 80s, end of 80s, 90s, a lot of devotees were fighting against KGB and so on. And they were in this fighting spirit, We have to fight against those guys, we have to really get those books out and so on, everything underground and everything. And when years later everything became free and open, they kind of lost the impetus, they lost the mood, There's nothing to fight about, And they just went to the farm or just, the houses and so on. So the preaching mood and spirit was kind of lost because there was no this contrary party to fight against, Everything is open. But of course, the next generation of young devotees came, they didn't know the how, and they just said, Harinam, Hare Krishna, beautiful, beautiful. So this is the difference. And therefore, Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the first chapter, which is studied by in the Bhakti Shastri. By the way, interesting, I just tried to find some interesting quotes about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. In one of the early things he did many, many changes. Like Mataji in the morning, it was morning class giving, she said that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati reintroduced the sannyasa system. That was not before like that. His father Bhakti, Thakur, he was Babaji. He took Babaji Vesh and went to Samadhi. So he introduced Samadhi. And also he introduced exams of Bhakti Shastri. Prabhupada, he was introducing the Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava and so on, but original idea and even exams. came from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Bhakti Shastri, one of these works which are usually studied everywhere, is Rupa Goswami Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And here is explained, if you want real product, because there's two paths, the Vaidhi Bhakti, which is based on books, based on prohibitions. Another one is Raganuga Bhakti, which is on the attraction. So actually Chaitanya's mission, and that's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the first chapter, is that he came to give this devotion to this service with emotion of Raja devotees. And since we are in Vrindavan here, I think this is the most important thing to understand. Although Vrindavan is about Krishna, and there's no doubt about it. There's all pictures, but there's also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So his idea was that according to the desires and the moods of devotees, he sent different preachers to different parts of India. He sent Balaram there, he sent the devotees there, and finally he sent his most dear Goswamis Vrindavan to reinaugurate those holy places and also write the books how to not just be physically here, but emotionally, mentally get into the mood of Vrindavan. And therefore, there is verses which could be quoted there. 1, 2. There's like four waves. The first wave, second chapter. There's let's read 2 verses. The most important is Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tadbhav lipsuna karya vraja lokana sarada. So this is what we do. We follow after inhabitants of Vraja. One should perform his seva in one's physical body and one's siddha body without desire of particular emotional state which is existent in that particular you're chosen or which is you attracted to some of the followers of inhabitants of Vrindavan. So this is whole idea. So, and this is just the, how to say, explanation, more opened lotus of the whole information which Krishna gives here already. He says, whatever you take, verse before, 8:6, yam yamapi swarambham, that verse. Whatever you remember, and you'll go there. And there is examples of happening. So even without, you can get a mercy as well. And practically, in that stage, there is only mercy. You cannot get spiritual body by anything, by meditation, by nothing. It's just Krishna gives it. When he sees you are serious enough, he will give it. So there's one example of Mataji in Mayapur some years ago, and she, with her husband, and quite of an old age, I couldn't say exactly. She was having already quite a heavy disease. I think leukemia, some like a cancer, blood cancer, something like that. So, and she was quite close to the end of the current incarnation. And one day she was really, really upset, and she was like crying. She was so despondent. And her husband asked, "What's happened?" And she said, Krishna came in a dream, and he asked me, "Come dance with me." I couldn't go. And she was so unhappy, like really unhappy. And he came and I couldn't, and she was just crying. And a couple of weeks later, she felt completely opposite, so happy. And what happened now? I said, today Radharani came. And she said, okay, you can refuse Krishna, but you cannot refuse me. You should come. And, a couple of days ago, later, she left the body. And Sri Ramaswamy, in his book of Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, in the last chapter, he explains, actually this is kind of a made-up fiction story, similar like Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote the Jaiva Dharma. There's so many names which actually didn't exist. But he said, this is story of ISKCON. And he said, there's 2 devotees, they were doing Harnam, Sankirtan, and so on. And in the old age, they went to Mayapur, they had inspiration, they had some dreams. And finally, they actually kind of have into what to do, and they had to choose to stay in Mayapur or go back. So they went back to their own country, preaching, getting even more Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And finally, in final stage, Chaitanya came and said, okay, let's go, the Harinam party. And he mentioned, this is happening in ISKCON every day. So when you read that, of the Maharaj, of the such a stalwart devotees like him, you have a trust, this is really happening. But to keep the faith and keep the secret of this process, Krishna is hiding that. Very rare cases. I think that was the case with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He was also chased by some dacoits, and he couldn't escape. And he was just like, okay, whatever. If they catch me, it happens. And the dacoits come, and he disappeared. And there was some girl sitting there. Some actually gopi was sitting there. And where the guy went off. And then the same minute he turned back to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And I understood, this is a big mistake. We chased the wrong person. No? So these stories happen, but not very often. So these changes happen. Like Panduranga said, okay, I'm going back to Godhead. Take my hand if you want. Let's go. And nobody believed him. So Prabhupada said, especially for disciples, if that hour will happen, whatever stage, if you follow these few things, 4 regulator principles, 16 rounds, stay in ISKCON, I will take your hand, I will bring back. And we will have ISKCON in Golok Vrindavan. How it's going to happen, I don't know. We'll see. But at least there is some kind of promise of Prabhupada. So this is a whole thing, and 15 minutes left. We could have talked about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati more, how he was here. And maybe you have some questions, some hints, some stories you want to share. Yes, Prabhu.
I stopped on one last sentence that you say, stay at ISKCON. What we can say about this more deeply?
Staying in ISKCON, I have even last will of Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and one of main points he mentioned few times, never leave ISKCON, never leave ISKCON. If you have any disagreements, do it in-house kind of thing. You are a disciple of Maharaj? You know the last will? You are nodding so much. So there is mentioned that there is a organization, and it's kind of interesting that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he mentions quite the opposite thing. He says that Putana, one of the demons in a Krishna Lila, represent organized religion. And organized religion, if it's like organized improper way, it's kind of becoming more like you experience in a temple commander. He is in charge, he has to give you service. And it's nothing to do with spirituality. He doesn't ask what you like, where you want to go, you have any problems. Just fill up. You'll be a brick in the wall. This is your seva. You wash your pots, you go, whatever you do, and you go on for years and years. And nobody, if you do it there, fine. Nobody will come and you ask how you feel, what's your next step. And okay, it's just wall and a brick. At the same time, you have spiritual master who will give you the spiritual side. What's the mood to do the service? So if the organized religion is happening, there'll be two things. There'll be some kind of idea of the supreme and some kind of service, selfless service. You can make anything up, There's a saying in America, if you run out of all ideas of business, just create your own religion. That will be very profitable. If you failed all your businesses before. So organized religion, if it is too big and too much for you, it maybe create such an impersonal thing, Nobody cares. I'm just a lost one sand in a whole thing. At the same time, because devotees, they join with a certain desire and with a certain mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada. They don't come like that, you know. I had a lots of books. When I was just, actually my stars were like, especially Jupiter came to the thing and that's it, you know. You have to do it. I just went to the library and asked, please bring me all the books about Samadhi, you know. And I read few pages, no, not this one, few pages, not this one. I was not satisfied until I got the book from one devotee in the street, Prabhupada, because you see Journey to Other Planets, whatever. So there's a mercy. And if we have this ISKCON, which is by the mercy of Prabhupada and Chaitanya here, and we jump over and looking for something better, this is not good. Because this is family. Whatever, your father is father, you can jump away. You can go away from your father, but he's still your father. You are still indebted to him. So this is an organization like a child of Prabhupada. He built a house in which whole world can live. He based Holy Soul movement on the experience and instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who also tried to do matters, but it didn't happen. Actually, some devotees say he passed away only because he was unhappy. He passed in early life. How long Prabhupada lived, you know? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left at the age of 62. He was very despondent. He said, I created only Kanishtadhikaris. They were brahmacharis, they were sannyasis, grihastas, but they were all like kanishtas. They were also meditating on themselves, on the Krishna. Nobody is actually preaching. And he was so unhappy, and because of that he just left earlier than probably he's supposed to. He was unhappy. So, but opposite, Prabhupada created so many sannyasis. Of course, there were problems, but still there's beautiful devotees. And if you try to jump out of it, actually you are betraying the philosophy as well. You're betraying Krishna's mercy. And you think, okay, this which I got is no good, I need something better. There's nothing better. Because this movement is based, Prabhupada writes in the Bhakti in the beginning, this movement is based on mercy of Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami is a topmost devotee. He's actually Nityasiddha devotee. He's not like others. And this whole philosophy is the best. Krishna is the best. Bhagavad Gita is the best, you know. Yeah. We can have a Gita Mahatmya saying that there's only one book, only one deity, only one process, you know. We don't have to look for outside. You can try. And sometimes we compare. Like if we do this or we do that, like, I don't want to get too much political, but for example, the question of woman guru thing, you know, there's quite a strong statement of some of ISKCON. Serious devotees said that this is laughing matter. Or some other thing, you know, we shouldn't be trying to introduce too much things. Of course, there was a whole thing, but these are acharyas. They introduced sannyas, they introduced many new things which are not before. You know, brahmacharya ashram, unheard of. But it was useful and was practical and it was bringing results. So when you stick to the tree which brings results, which expands, you know, my Guru Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, how many temples he built? You know, in Delhi itself, it's 14 temples. You know, all Germany doesn't have a proper temple, which is 16 million. You know, they're renting some houses. You know, there's one or two, hardly. You know, in such a way, Germany could have, you know, 20 million, 60 temples, same quantity of people, but because there's no faith. But there's a faith, there's a piety, and people doing and developing things. So therefore, stay with the movement, you know, stay with the elevator which brings back to Godhead, and don't jump out, you know. You jump out, you are missing a train, you have to wait, you know, and maybe like in Mumbai, you really have to push yourself back into the movement and train. You've been these Indian trains in the morning, you know, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, hanging by one hand, you know. And if you let it go, you know, maybe you don't jump in the next train. Who knows how many lives you'll get. So don't miss the mercy. Stay with the devotees who are really followers of Rupa Goswami, all the acharyas, so on, and finally Prabhupada. That's all be. Just stay there. Just by one word promise, I will be there at least this lifetime till end. You know. Krishna will be merciful. What is your experience of ISKCON? How many years you have been in ISKCON? You, yeah.
What,
Which year did you join?
30 years.
30 years. Yeah. Very nice. So how did you join? Books, preaching, kirtan, prasad? Prasad Vishwa. Yeah.
Temple, the first service they gave us the distribute prasad.
Yeah. Prabhupada's secret weapon.
Then gradually,
He was feeding all the hippies made into happies by the gulab jamuns.
we say that don't leave ISKCON.
Yes.
It's like that.
Yeah.
It's like they say that
Slogan.
boat, ISKCON boat is going to Golok.
Yes.
So if you stay in the boat, you will definitely will reach.
Exactly.
But if you jump out, then
Who knows,
outside
yeah.
the crocodile will catch
Who knows?
us.
Yeah.
And we become
But there's an interesting example. Even without boat, an example is very unusual. And Chaitanya Charitamrita says, even dog can cross the ocean, without boat. How much dog can swim, Few meters, he will drown soon. I had experience once in my lifetime in Thailand. I was living there, and there was some kind of competition. People jumping from the rock to the water, and they had a ship, big barge, bringing people out, and they were watching on the water. It was a huge thing, and you just watch how the things. And the event finished, and they said, "Okay, in 1 hour, 40 minutes, something like that, the whole trip will go back." And they said, "Oh, come on, we cannot wait so long." And then you look at the beach; it looks like so close, And he said, "Okay, let's swim to the shore." But this is not just a river. It's not Yamuna. It's actually ocean, It's Indian Ocean, Andaman Sea. And the waves are like 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters. When you swim, like every move, the water comes into your eyes. Oh, no way. And actually, we had to swim 1 kilometer to the shore. And after how many times, and you finally get to land, you're so happy. But by Chaitanya's mercy, it said, even dog can swim across the ocean. If you have a mercy. So anything you have, by Chaitanya's mercy is easy. But if you don't have Chaitanya's mercy, even the lightest thing becomes most hard. So we need to meditate on ISKCON, we meditate on Chaitanya, we meditate on today, especially on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's mercy. And one of the rarest things which never happened, there's sannyasa, this and this, and Sita Pranali initiation, and all these things. But he introduced the most amazing thing, which is book distribution. We say Prabhupada Marathon. But original idea came from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Because before, how was books distributed? The one who was really eager, he was going to Brahman and said, "I have a book. Please copy it." And by handwriting, you have to copy the whole book. And you give donation and so on. One book, And also there's famous story that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went to his father and said, "I want to print this book." I think he mentioned Gopi Gita, Gita Govinda, something like that. I said, "Okay, you can make 2 copies, one for me and one for you." That's it. And that was never happened. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur started sending his books a little bit to libraries. But the whole idea, when printed actually happened, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they started to selling books to the people on the street. You didn't have to have a qualification. You didn't have even maybe an opposite qualification. You don't want to hear about it. But because devotees came, and because they approached you, because they teach, real mercy, and Krishna's mercy is there, and Chaitanya's mercy, Guru Maharaj's mercy is there, they actually somehow managed to sell the book. And that book may be read, maybe not read, doesn't matter. It was sitting in a house for 10 years and suddenly, pop, somebody's reading it and the mercy happens. So this whole idea started by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, selling books on the street, door to door, like that. And this is how actually the movement spread. Of course, the holy name. Prabhupada was sitting in his park, chanting Hare Krishna, nothing else. He had books, but only after chanting Hare Krishna. So these two things happen. Oh, God, and prasada. So three things. So please be merciful to yourself, to your spiritual advancement. Never leave this process, never leave ISKCON. And by meditating on Chaitanya, meditating on gurus who actually gave us this process and mercy, you'll be able to go back to Krishna in this lifetime. Hare Krishna. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samveta Bhakti.